This video off and let's cover the 3 ways you can counteract these 3 curveballs that life finds your way, sends your way, right? So we've covered 3 curveballs, right? Just to recap from the previous video. 1, curveballs that happen because of stuff that we didn't do or that we didn't do as well as we could have. Curveball number 2, due to things that we did do that we probably shouldn't have done, right? And curveball number 3, life happens, shit happens, we get hit. We got to get back up. So I want to cover in this video, this follow-on, 3 ways in which you can counteract these curveballs and overcome them. Tip number one is learning to be better prepared. How can you be better prepared for things that life sends your way? Maybe it means saving up. Maybe you need to save up more money so you can pay your bills. Maybe in a relationship sense, you need to invest your time into a relationship, whether it's business or finance. You've got to put more time into the relationship in order to benefit it and grow it. Maybe it's other ways. Your health, prepare better by doing exercise like I'm doing here, right? I'm preparing on a Sunday morning. Sometimes you have to sacrifice in order to prepare. So tip number 1 is learn to prepare. Tip number 1 is learn to prepare by becoming more, learn to prepare to overcome some of those obstacles. That's tip number 1. Tip number 2, on top of being prepared, is learning to become more physically and emotionally, mentally strong. Build your mental toughness, build your resilience muscles. How do you do that? Learn to be able to spend time physically strengthening yourself, spending time in meditation, and spending time in listening to what you're saying inside. And it sounds a bit wishy-washy, but it's the truth. You're learning to consume better stuff. One of the best ways to build your mental, emotional, and physical toughness is to consume better stuff. You know, we always think about diet as food, what we eat, but food and what we eat is just one part of 3 things. The other 2 parts are what we consume through our eyes, what we consume through our ears. If we can improve our mental and emotional portion control and the quality of what we consume here and here, then we're likely to build our resilience, our physical and mental strength. So that's tip number 2. And finally, tip number 3. Tip number 3, I'm going to get spiritual here. You know I'm going to do this because spirituality affects us all. We may not realize it. And I didn't start that podcast, Urban Spirituality, for no reason, right? So tip number 3 is to learn to become healthily detached. Learn to become more healthily detached. Learn to recognize that things that we have going on in our lives aren't going to last forever. As the King of Persia said, this too shall pass. Sometimes we're so caught up in the stranglehold of dealing with the curveball that life's thrown us, right? But we forget that in a month, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a year, this thing's not going to matter. It's probably going to be gone. A lot of these things, we grossly exaggerate the impact in our mind, and then we suffer even more. So tip number 3 is to learn the art of healthy detachment. How do you do that? How do you learn to become healthily detached, and how do you learn to become more spiritually inclined? Meditation, mindfulness. Read and fuel your mind with stuff that's going to help you to see the bigger picture, the spiritual aspect of life. Look, we're around nature. Think about it. 200, 300 years ago, we didn't have all this fancy technology. We didn't have a lot of this stuff. People were happy living their lives in nature with people, having conversations, having meaningful discussions, looking inside oneself. And these are the joys, these are the real gems of life that this generation and us, we're in danger of forgetting. So why not take those gifts, learn to be healthily detached, learn to give and serve. This is in Sanskrit, in the oldest language in the world. We call that seva, serving. Why not learn to serve others, give the gift to others? And in doing so, we learn to overcome curveball number 3. So I hope that helps. As always, if you haven't already, go check out, like and subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel, Urban Spirituality. It's also on iTunes, Google, Podcast, Spotify, all of that. Share some love and put your comments as to how you're overcoming your curveballs. That's it from me.